morning, and thank you for joining us on After GMS 7:45 on Thursday, August 27th. I'm Tracy McCain in the studio. Stacey Spivey and Megan Malaris are working from home, and our two meteorologists, Taran Kirksey and Ed Matthews, are tracking Hurricane Laura. It's been a very busy morning for you guys as Laura really just battered the Gulf Coast this morning. So, Taran, kind of get us up to date on where Laura is and where she's headed.
All right, let's talk about it right now. As of the 7 a.m. advisory, Laura continues to weaken. It's still a Category 2 hurricane now, with max sustained winds down to 105 miles per hour. Compare that to when it made landfall around 2 a.m. our time as a Category 4 hurricane with max sustained winds at 150 miles per hour. But as it continues to push more inland, it continues to weaken. You can see the eye there is starting to close up, and it's getting a little bit more ragged as well. And we're starting to see the cloud tops beginning to get a little bit warmer. And that just means that the storms are starting to weaken around the center of circulation. So that certainly is a good thing, but it did definitely pack a punch as it came ashore. We were looking at storm surge in excess of 10 feet. And when you compare that to the elevation across southwest Louisiana, this is where the problem comes in. The parish that it made landfall, Cameron Parish, that's what they call the counties down there, has an average elevation of only 3 feet. So you can assume that the majority of the county, if not the entire county, is underwater at some level early this morning. So that's definitely not a good thing. As we look at the satellite radar view here, we still have the rainfall falling, but the southern in the southeastern corner of the eye wall continues to deteriorate there. And the weather is actually quickly improving across southeast Texas. So as we zoom on in, we're talking about the Golden Triangle area of southeast Texas here. So that's Beaumont, Orange, and Port Arthur. The weather is quickly improving. So unlike Harvey that sat over that area for days and dumped 60 inches of rainfall, they're not going to have to deal with that. The storm's going to be out of their neck of the woods over the next few hours. We still have a hurricane warning that extends now all the way north to the Arkansas-Louisiana border. And then as you go to the north of there, we have a tropical storm warning that extends all the way towards Little Rock. So we'll continue to watch this system gradually weaken as we go through the day today. It'll weaken to a tropical storm eventually later on this evening into early tomorrow morning, and then it will weaken into a tropical depression on Friday. And then at that point, some of the remnants of this system will track across our region, and that could give us a decent chance of scattered showers and storms on Saturday afternoon on into Saturday evening. We may have to keep a close eye on some of those storms if this system is still somewhat organized at that point, but that still remains to be seen. But of course, again, we're going to keep an eye on that for you. The good news for us, though, is the weather's fairly quiet right now, and we're going to have pretty nice weather the next few days, right, Ed?
Oh, yes, indeed, Taran. I tell you what, those air conditioning units are going to be humming across the Piedmont today and tomorrow. We're looking at low 90s today. I think we'll be up around 91, 92, mixed sun and a few afternoon clouds mixing in. And then tonight, it'll be partly cloudy and muggy, low in mid 70s. Tomorrow, we're back up around 90. We mentioned a stray storm, but I think for the most part, Friday's going to be dry. And then as Taran has been talking about, the remnant low, the depression of Laura is going to be tracking, we think, over the state of Virginia on Saturday and Saturday evening. And we think that'll bring us an enhanced chance of showers and thunderstorms, maybe a little bit of wind, maybe a wind gust 35, 40 miles per hour at the worst. And then that system moves on out quickly. A cold front moves through. And how about some less humid and dry conditions on Sunday and early next week? I think it's going to feel good by Sunday and Monday.
Well, let's see what Hurricane Laura is doing on the ground right now. As I mentioned, it's still hitting Louisiana after making landfall overnight as a Category 4 storm. The wind and rain are beating down on coastal areas in Louisiana and parts of Texas, which are just above sea level. At one point, the wind speed was about 150 miles per hour. Before the worst of this arrived, a crew in Lake Charles, Louisiana, gave us a look at how strong the wind was blowing.
This is where we're going to go if something gets real bad, real windy. I want to show you what things are like when I step out in this direction, out of the cover of that wall. You okay, Rick? It's windy and it's wet and things are blowing fast. This is Hurricane Laura.
Wow, that wind causing hundreds of thousands of power outages already at this point this morning. The map tracks different power companies and outages across the entire state of Louisiana. The red and orange here signify the outages right along the coast where the storm first made landfall. Right now, there are at least 378,000 outages reported, and keep in mind, people are still just waking up. People in Texas and Louisiana are standing by to help those most in need. We know the Boone-based group Samaritan's Purse has a disaster response equipment and non-perishable food item team geared up, ready to go. The group says it's partnering with local churches to help track down the areas in need of their help.
Well, now that it's daybreak, we'll really start to see the storm's impact. Our Stacey Spivey keeping track of the videos and the pictures that we are seeing online. Good morning, Stace.
Good morning. Now keep in mind it is an hour behind us there, so sun may not be risen there yet. I'd have to ask the meteorologist about that, but we are starting to see some of the images from overnight come in, and it really is just crazy video. Mainly the worst that I'm seeing is out of Lake Charles, Louisiana. So go ahead and take a look at this first video. It's the moment power goes out in part of that city. It's almost like someone just took a light switch and turned off all the lights there. And then moving on to the next video, it's a look at some of the damage left behind in Lake Charles. According to this Twitter user, this is of the Chase building downtown there. I mean, windows just completely shattered and busted out. So crazy to see. And communication towers, we're being told, across the city have collapsed there as well. And this is a picture of one of them just crumbled. It almost reminds me, and Tran and I were talking about this earlier, it looks like a massive tornado went through that city, but it's just strong wind and rain, and that's videos that I've been seeing all morning long. Is just, I mean, I can't even put words to how, I mean, the only word I can think of is just crazy, because it is insane to see.
I think she was directing that to you, Taran, from what I heard.
Yeah, you know, and I said this on Twitter, and I was kind of talking to just some friends of mine just, you know, yesterday evening too. This is one of those times where I absolutely despise the weather. I wish that storms like this did not occur. And, you know, people say, well, you know, I thought you get excited when there are tornadoes and hurricanes. No, I don't like them at all, because you see what they do. And this is one of those situations that will completely change the course of many people's lives in Southwest Louisiana. And in some cases, unfortunately, some people have probably lost their lives in that part of the area too. You know, Southwest Louisiana is even more vulnerable to storm surge than Southeast Texas. Port Arthur, Texas is about, I think, 7 to 10 feet above sea level, if I remember correctly. Cameron Parish, where the eye made landfall, it averages about 3 feet above sea level, and about a third of the county is really marshland. Okay, so when this storm surge came in, you know, 10 feet, in some cases, maybe 15 feet or more, that's a big problem. And, you know, there have been many reports that there are several people, or really more than 100 people, that decided to not evacuate Cameron Parish. And sometimes it's easy just to kind of point the blame and be like, well, why didn't you leave? But when you look at the demographics of that portion of the state specifically, in some cases, people just didn't have the resources to be able to leave. And it really hits you kind of in the gut when you really think about, you know, at least if you have some ounce of humanity, you really think about what just occurred last night into this morning. This isn't just something that you're looking at on satellite. This isn't just something to look at on radar. This is people's lives that we were talking about, okay? And this storm is the strongest storm on record to hit Louisiana since 1856. This is not an everyday thing. And if you want to compare it to some damage that we've seen in recent memory, it's going to be something similar to what we saw in Mexico Beach in Florida with Michael, if not worse in this case. The high concern about what happened, especially in the town of Cameron, Louisiana, that was ground zero. And then as you move inland, Lake Charles is probably the largest area that, or largest town or settlement that dealt with the eye of this hurricane. It still was a Category 3 as it moved on over Lake Charles. And so you're thinking about the wind in terms of a tornado. You're talking about widespread EF1, EF2 type tornado damage, and in some spots EF3 damage possible, because wind is wind. It really doesn't matter if it's going in a circle or straight at you. And so there's going to be images that come out of Southwest Louisiana that are going to be absolutely awful to see. And I need people to be prepared for that. We're gonna hope that most people, if not everybody, made it through okay. We're gonna hope that the officials are gonna be able to get in there and really start the recovery process quickly, but it is going to be a journey. This is going to be, again, one of those storms that will change the course of what's going to happen with that area for a while. So we're going to watch things, we're going to keep you updated, but I just wanted to make sure that we don't forget the human element here about what happened last night and this morning, and what's going to continue to occur, thankfully on a lesser level as the storm weakens, as it continues to track northward, essentially along the Louisiana-Texas border.
You know, thank you for that perspective, Taran. You added some great details. You know, we can talk about the storm surge, we can talk about the wind speed, we can talk about the tornado threat, but we can't forget about talking about the people and those who live in that area who literally will have to start from zero. As early as this morning. Bobby Odom said, glad to hear that a few of my friends from Lake Charles are safe this morning, but praying for those who could not evacuate. Bringing it back to your point, Taran, some people had to stay or chose to stay because of a lack of resources in that area, not to mention an ongoing pandemic, which makes this situation 10 times worse than it could have been. Ed Matthews, I want to flash back a week ago to a situation we were first watching when Marco and Laura were threatening the same area. Glad to see Marco went away, but Laura did enough damage on her own.
Yeah, yes, indeed. It only takes one extremely powerful hurricane to move inland. And thankfully, you know, Marco was not of this magnitude. I mean, quite frankly, for all practical purposes, Marco just fizzled out. And that was a blessing in itself. If that would have been a hurricane and then we would have gotten the 1-2 punch from Laura, it would have been even worse. And I think Taran did a wonderful job in putting the human element in to what's occurred last night and earlier this morning. I think we're just going to be shocked. Now that the sun is up, they're out getting video, they're getting pictures of the damage. And Taran mentioned to me earlier, you know, it is possible that I guess the small community of Cameron, where it made landfall, may be completely devastated, just based on my conversations in between weather segments with Taran this morning. So certainly very serious. And Taran, you know, we focus a lot on the wind, but Taran has also been focusing on the storm surge, that wall of water that moves inland out ahead of the storm. This is very flat land near sea level, storm surge around 10 to 15 feet. Imagine a wall of water 10 to 15 feet high just surging in. And if you'll look back in the history books, back to the year 1900, no satellite, no radar, no weather service, really nothing to alert the folks of Galveston, Texas, that a major hurricane was on the way. You know how you found out that a hurricane was coming? The wind started blowing. So back in 1900, a hurricane moved inland at Galveston, Texas, and killed about 9,000 people in just a matter of a few seconds. That was the wall of water that was moving inland. Now along Galveston Bay, they have a seawall there, hopefully to protect the community from future hurricanes.
Ooh, another, side of perspective there, Ed Matthews, when you mentioned that wall of water. You say, and we read on the news, a 13 to 15 foot storm surge, and you probably hear that, but to really get a good idea of that, Ed Matthews, you painted a wonderful picture of what that would look like as it rushes into your home. And it brings me back to a more recent memory, 2006 Hurricane Katrina, when we saw people on top of their roofs waiting for helicopter rescues or water rescues. And some people staying on top of the roofs for hours until they were found and accounted for. And if that's the type of imagery that we are expecting to see today, as water crews get out there to start looking for people, I'm not prepared for it. That was devastating and heart-wrenching for me, and that community still trying to rebound. So Taran, if you're saying that this is what we're in for today, it's heartbreaking, absolutely heartbreaking.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, we focus so much on the wind, but the Saffir-Simpson scale just accounts for the wind. It's really not the best way of communicating the danger that some of these storms can produce. I mean, Hurricane Katrina was just a Category 3 when it made landfall, but it had Category 5 size storm surge when it moved inland, and you saw what it did across southeast Louisiana. The only good thing, and this really isn't that good when it comes to the lives that we're talking about here, because one life lost is too many, is that this wasn't really a very populated area. Lake Charles is the most populated town there in southwest Louisiana. I think it only has like 70 or 80,000 people. If this storm was about 95 miles to the west, we're talking about Houston, and Houston is completely ill prepared for a major hurricane. We've been lucky so far that we haven't had a major hurricane take direct aim. I'm talking about a Category 4 or 5 direct aim at Houston yet, but that was the absolute worst case scenario for widespread loss of life. But again, as I mentioned, southwest Louisiana is a very vulnerable part of the state, not only because of the topography, but also because demographically, people don't have the money and the resources to easily be able to just get in the car and be able to afford a night at a hotel, or to be able to afford the gas in some cases to go and get out of the way. And those are good people down there. I've been down across that part of Louisiana several times when I lived in Texas. So if you are the kind to pray, make sure you're putting up a prayer for those folks. And if there's anything that you can do to assist these charities and other organizations that are going to be going down there to help the people, please do that as well. So that's kind of my personal plea on that. So we're going to see more and more images that come out of this, and I can assure you that it's not going to be good. So if you are sensitive to seeing those type of things, I would try to avoid seeing that if you can. But it's not going to be good. The images and the video that we probably will see come out of southwest Louisiana.
And Megan, you think about it, our community, our nation is so wonderful in helping others. You can imagine the response will be great from those who are not affected, and that area is going to need all the help they can get.
Yeah, and I'm looking on Twitter right now at the different people weighing in using the hashtag Laura, and I'm reading our Facebook comments here on the WFMY live feed, and there is already just this outpouring of prayers for those people who are affected in Louisiana and Texas. We know, and we mentioned our Boone, North Carolina-based charity group, Samaritan's Purse, run by the Graham family, that sends relief time and again to the centers of these worst disasters that we've had in recent history as far as the weather is concerned. We saw their response after Hurricane Matthew, Hurricane Harvey, now with Laura, Hurricane Maria. I mean, so many big hurricanes in recent years. And just getting the basic supplies to people is so crucial. Think about it. A lot of the roads impassable already. How are these families supposed to get water? How are they supposed to get food? How are they supposed to get their medicine if they did not have the time to evacuate? So it is so crucial, and I'm sure we'll see more of this response in the days ahead for these charity organizations to be able to get in and deliver these much needed supplies to the people who are in dire straits right now.
All right, Stacey, I know that you asked for weather questions earlier in the feed. I'm not sure if you've been monitoring it, but if you want to go ahead and address some of those, and then we'll wrap up things with, I think, another look at the forecast.
I think the only one that I want to mention before we let you guys go is Charlotte had a good question. She said, could we have any tornadoes or damaging winds in the Piedmont this weekend because of this?
I'll let you take that, Ed.
Okay. Well, it is something we're going to have to watch and wait. I think, of course, the system is going to weaken considerably, and it'll be nothing than just a little baby low pressure area when it moves through Virginia the way it looks right now. But there still will be at least some minor rotation within that area of low pressure. And if we do get thunderstorms, we couldn't rule out maybe a spin up of a very weak tornado. Now, I'm not saying that that's definitely going to happen, but it's something we're going to watch. But the remnants of this major devastating hurricane will be nothing more than just a little non-tropical low pressure area. But certainly we could not rule that out. And that's something we're going to be watching, and we'll be working with the Storm Prediction Center out in Norman, Oklahoma, to see if they put us in a risk area for severe weather coming up on Saturday. It's not impossible, low chance the way it looks right now, but it's not impossible. So it's something that we'll watch very closely.
All right, well, while we're talking about the forecast, and things for North Carolina, Ed, why don't you kind of close us out and give us some hope at the end of that? How about that?
Oh, yes, indeed. Certainly our thoughts and prayers go out for everybody in Louisiana on this very devastating hurricane. Now, for us, hot and dry today and tomorrow, and then the leftover moisture from Laura. We think that remnant low, the way it looks right now, is going to pass over central or northern Virginia, but that pocket of moisture will move through our area Saturday afternoon and Saturday evening. It's going to zip by to our north really pretty quickly, so there's a small window of showers and thunderstorms. We'll look to see and, of course, let you know if we do have any severe storms associated with that pocket of moisture. And then look what happens later Saturday night on into Sunday and Monday. We're back to dry weather. A cold front will move through the area, and that's going to bring in some drier, less humid air. But I tell you, in the meantime, as the remnants of that hurricane move to our north, it is going to get even muggy here in the Piedmont. What are we talking about? It's already muggy, but it'll be a really sticky and humid day coming up on Saturday.
All right, well, thank you so much for joining us on this special edition of After GMS, really where we talked only about Hurricane Laura. It is the big story of today and probably will be for the next several as we start to see conditions. People are waking up, people are starting to move about, and our crews down there are starting to already report water rescues. I did see one of our affiliates in Beaumont, Texas, issue an alert about one. So we'll be monitoring that, and we'll keep you updated today at noon. All right, everybody, stay safe. Hug somebody today. They need it. We'll talk soon.